Hi everyone, welcome to another day of NaNoWriMo. And today will be again filled with live writing sprints. My name is Ilse and I am a magic wielding dragon companion and creator of worlds, and I'm here to help you achieve your author journey. And today we do that with several writing sprints of 25 minutes with a few breaks in between to check how things are going, and the necessary snack and drink breaks to keep you going this afternoon. So I wanted to check in with you guys to see how you are all doing. I unfortunately did not manage to write yesterday. I had a day that was way too busy for other things, or with other things, I should say. I would simply was way too busy, and in the evening I did not have the energy anymore to write again. But it didn't stop my mind from thinking about everything that is going on in my story and the things that can follow from what I had already written. So this morning during work, I of course got some ideas. That is not always handy, but it's okay. And I don't quite mind it. So I can now just go on and write the things that I thought about this morning and that I discovered this morning. And we'll see if the High Council of Tergaenae and perhaps the Inky Winged Beats reporters are willing to share some information and are willing to give me the permission to give that information to you guys. So, how have you been doing? I hope that you've been doing very well and that you are on schedule with your nano projects. Like I said, I'm not on schedule, but I managed to write 850 words on the first day, so that was a good day. And today I hope to write at least the same amount. I think, let's see, where I have to be today. Oh boy, I have to be at 5,000 words. I have no idea if I'm gonna make it that. But the most important thing is that I'm going to write and my story will develop and I will see where it takes me. And that for me is the most important thing of NaNoWriMo, the National Novel Writing Month. Um, yes, it's fun to reach your goals, to reach that 50,000 words. That's always fun to do, because it is really a challenge to write 1,667 words each day in your story. At the same time, it is, in a way, it is set in stone, but for me, it's not set in stone. I just see it as a fun guideline, a fun challenge, but I won't be disheartened if I don't make that challenge. And instead, I will be happy because I managed to write and I managed to progress my story. And that is what is important during NaNoWriMo. I mean, if you write, whether you write 50,000 words or you write for a set amount of hours that you set for yourself, or a set amount of pages, or whatever, or you did world building, or you were a rebel like I am. I'm in this case right now. I am not writing a new story. I am continuing my background story of Nejat and Nejat in the world of Tergaenae, and their background story is the prelude to the main novel. And the main novel is a novel that I have written in the past, and that needs to be at least partially rewritten and edited. And that is what I will continue with once the background story is finished. But the background story is something that I have worked on for the last month or 2 months. I'm not exactly sure when I started. I didn't keep track of that, but I managed to keep writing for that story, and to keep discovering things in Tergaenae and with those characters, and that is what is important to me. And I hope to find more and more during this NaNoWriMo event, and to see where it takes me, and also to see if the beginning of the main novel that I had in mind, or at least the begin point of these two characters in the main novel, if that is indeed where their story in a novel will start. It is something, my apologies, it is something that I have in mind, but I have no idea. Oh, hi Tish. Oh, it's been a while since I saw you. It's great to see you join. Thank you. Away from the Netherlands, and you're waving from Texas. How is your NaNoWriMo going? I think that you. I think I saw a few live stream notifications from you, in which you are joining NaNoWriMo as well. How is it going for you? Are you on your goal? And did you meet any hurdles yet, or is everything going smoothly at the moment? I'm really looking forward to hearing that from you. And you say, good to see you working on chapter 2 today, Cozy Mystery Book 2. Oh, that's awesome to hear. Awesome. Girls going strong so far. Ah, that's great. That's great. Well, it's fun when your girls go well and go as you have planned, or at least hoped. In my case, like I said, the 50,000 words, I know in the past I've reached it several times, and in this case I think I can reach it, but I probably won't be writing every day, but I don't care, as long as my story gets written, and as long as I manage to progress the story in such a way that I can also work on my main novel later on. And so, how did your live streams go? Did you have a lot of fun? And for those of you checking in, please check out Tish's channel as well. She does regular live streams with writing sessions. It's always fun to see. So please join her as well in the future. And if you are watching right now and you haven't subscribed yet, or you don't know me yet, I mean, I do weekly live writing sessions every Friday, and this is a new time for me. On a Friday I decided to try the afternoon writing instead of the evening writing. At least for me it's the afternoon. It's just 3 p.m. It's just been 3 p.m. here in the Netherlands, so it's a different time for writing, but I hope it's better than the evening writing. Did you say it's been good, giving some tips to help push words forward? Oh, excellent. Any particular tips you have in mind, of which you say that is something that many writers can use? Oh, Fridays are good for you since you don't have to take your kid to school. Well, excellent, excellent. Well, thank you for joining us, and it's always fun to see more people join. I know that in the Discord channel, or in my Discord channel that I have together with my moderator, we have a few people with kids as well, so that's fun, and they also write in between and bringing the kids to school or having the kids around. That's I can totally imagine that's quite the struggle. Your tip: ignore your inner critic, keep writing just to get those words out of your head and on paper. Yeah, that is one tip that I can really back. It's especially during NaNoWriMo, if you want to reach that goal of 50,000 words, just shut up that inner critic, and I mean, give her a chair somewhere in the attic, or if you're on the attic, somewhere in the basement, just really far away, because that is the only way to get those words. And we talked about it in the Discord earlier yesterday, and we also came to the conclusion that in the basics, when you're writing your first draft and perhaps even your second draft, shutting off that inner critic is essentially the best way to do it, because especially the first draft, it is to get your ideas of the events for your book on paper into words. And to have that happen, you just have to shut up that inner critic. And the inner critic has a function once you start editing, once you start looking at the flow of your story, and to see if you have enough things about your world in your story and about your characters, if your characters are really alive in your story. But as long as you are working on the events and on everything that has to happen in your story, or that you'd like to see, or that you discover in your story, that is not the time to give your inner critic a chair and to let her lean over your shoulder. Just shut her up and back her off. Just put her in the basement or the attic as far away from you as possible. Tishu say, "Lol, that's so true." Yeah, thank you. So last Wednesday, the kickoff from NaNoWriMo, I left my my main character Nejat in the ancient forest, and he and his team had just defeated the outsiders, as I have called them at this moment. That's a tiny bit of world building I still need to do. I mean, I still do not know the village where they are yet. That is some world building I still have to do. Those are the fun things. But right now, Nejat is in a fight with the leader of that group, and he has been taunting him, and he had him pinned down, but he also let him struggle a bit and let him lose, so to speak, to be able to punish him more, because there is this certain flutter nymph that is very, very angry and at the moment hidden in a sling on Nejat's chest. So he wants to give her the time to, let's say, take some revenge, and then we have to find the other flutter nymphs and the small folk that are also apparently there in the area, and they have to be rescued, and I'll have to see how that goes. So Tish, where are you, or where is your character at the moment in your story, if you can tell that? Is it still, are you in the, shall I say, introduction phase, or have certain events happened for your character that set things in motion? And the same question, of course, for other people who are watching. Please share your thoughts and your experiences and your ideas and your struggles and everything in the chat, or if you are viewing this live stream later on, share them in the comments below, and I will get to them afterwards. And if you like it, you are also welcome to join our Discord. I set it up together with my moderator, and we set it up after I think Camp NaNoWriMo April or something, because we found that we needed a place outside of the Camp NaNoWriMo site. Tish, you are in book 2 at the moment. You're just drafting the first draft, but she's back home after 2 decades. Oh wow, that must be quite a change for her. That's incredible. I mean, I can't imagine being away from home for 2 decades. That is such a long time to be away. Um, is there for her a reason to have been away for 2 decades, or rather, or maybe to return only now, or to return now that something has happened and to go back to where she came from, where she has been those 2 decades? Is it Was it by choice that she was away for 2 decades? I mean, so many questions I have at the moment. When I just noticed, I got a mug from my aunt a few years ago, and I think this is a wonderful text on the mug. It says, "Follow your dream," and I really like that. And I think that that is something that we can keep in mind during NaNoWriMo. Um, I mean, isn't it a dream of everyone to write a story and perhaps get it published, or publish it yourself, or just publish it on your website? I mean, it doesn't matter. Share it with people. So follow your dream during NaNoWriMo and make sure to stick to that dream. Tishu says she ran away after graduation, wanted to move to the big city. Now her dad has Alzheimer's and need to retire. She's trying to find out her paternity before he loses his memories, and find out who kills the town's psychic. Oh wow, that's whew, whew, that's a heavy story. I mean, yeah. Is her dad still aware that she has been away for that long, or has he regressed in Alzheimer's? I don't know how you call that. Digressed so much that he doesn't remember that she's been away that long. And how does that work for your character? Does she struggle with that, or do you expect her to struggle with that gap in his memories? If I look at my own story, um, in my own series, I have several characters, and in this case, the main character I'm writing about now, Nejat, he is a dragon companion, and he lives with his adoptive father, or rather his second father, I should say. He still has his mother, and his mother remarried the Dragon King, and that is where they live now. And he has two siblings, two younger brothers, and he is in a good place there. And he does have memories of his father, because he was close to being a teenager when they fled their home after she had been cast out, after the mother had been cast out. It's a whole different story that might come in later. And so yeah, he has memories of his biological father, but those aren't great memories, so he doesn't mind not going back there. Tish, you say he's the town sheriff and he doesn't want to retire. I can imagine that, but with memories going bad, Bay kept in touch with family but need to come and help with his care. I can imagine. There's revenge, a murder, and long buried secrets. Oh boy, oh man. I mean, it sounds like an exciting crime book, a crime novel. I'm really looking forward to it, to hearing more about it later on. And the long buried secrets that set the whole town on edge, hoping their secrets were buried with a psychic whom they all have a motive in her. That oh my. So that will be a long sword, a hard sword for her to figure out who actually killed the psychic. If there are so many people who have a motive in her death, I mean that's incredible. And so many people. I mean, how many people are we talking about? I mean, I have a vision of. I mean, there's a small village, but I mean, depending on the size of the village. I mean, it can be 10 people, but it can also be 100 people. So how large is your cast of people she has to sort through to find the real killer? It will be fun and intriguing. I bet it will. I bet it will. I'm normally not. I normally don't read crime novels, but I do like police series. So and series like crime scene investigations and things like that. So it's not that that I don't like the genre. I just have never read a crime novel yet. Um, I think your story sounds very interesting to read in the future. So it might be the first crime novel I will read. So yeah, that will be great. Actually, there's about 5 suspects, you say, but the town is a very small country town. Okay, so 5 suspects. That's a start to go through. Yeah, you hope so. Yeah, thank you. Uh, it's all it's so fun to hear about stories about projects from other authors and to see how things progress for them. You have 17 characters. Oh, that's doable to keep track of. But the main 5 will be a part of the series. Okay, okay. Well, that's good. That's good. I have slightly more characters, but I guess that comes in with the fact that uh, my dragon companions have teams, and um, one of the themes in Tergaenae is sort of the infinity sign. So, in other words, the figure 8. So the teams of the dragon companions consist of 8 members. So Nejat has 7 teammates, but his 2 brothers are dragon companions as well, and they each have their own team and each team has 8 members. So yeah, I'm writing a full fantasy story indeed. It's a high fantasy set in the world of Tergaenae, a completely fictional world, because I simply could not imagine having dragons flying around and having to feed dragons um, here on Earth. I mean, that was inconceivable for me. Um, I mean, yeah, there are I know an artist who creates tiny dragons. I mean, they can fit on the tip of your finger. Dragons of Wales, Andy Fraser, he's a wonderful artist. Um, and I mean, yes, those kind of dragons also are in my story, but I also have the big dragons. Um, Perhaps also the size of the dragons in Game of Thrones. So there are all different sizes of dragons, but I simply couldn't imagine them living here on Earth. That it was inconceivable for me. And you say, oh, you definitely have lots of characters. Yes. You just discovered fantasy and you're excited to read yours once you finish. Oh, thank you. Well, I have to be honest. I'm writing a series at the moment. It started out as an idea for one book, which quickly became a trilogy, and now it's a quintet with a prequel to it. So yeah, that's going to be a problem. Or well, no, not really a problem. It's fun to do. It takes a lot of time to plan everything because I know that I need foreshadowing and such in my story. So I need to be really careful with things that I write and things that I write in book one, that might influence book three or book five or even later on. I don't know. At the moment, I've decided to simply write the entire series and then make the divisions of the books once I've written the entire series. Because at that point, I think it will become more obvious where the logical splits will be. Tisha say your cousin is writing his first fantasy for middle grade about dragons. Oh, that's awesome. Well, my series is definitely not for middle grades. This is gonna be an adult series, and I know people may think it's. I mean, it's a stereotype. Women can't write fantasy. Women can't write high fantasy, and if they do, it's young adult because they can never write adult series. Well, to hell with that. I'm just writing for adults. This is not a series that is suitable for the younger audience, or at least it's not what I've planned so far. So, but yeah, writing about dragons is it's such a fun thing to do, and in my case the dragons are really sentient beings in also the way that they can communicate with the dragon companions, um, so that's awesome. And she should say, oh yes, women can write anything. Right, it's I do not understand why there is this idea that women cannot write anything. To hell with that idea. I mean, anyone who says that to me can go, I don't know, go somewhere else, because we just write anything we want. So yeah, it's the dragons in Tergaenae are how shall I say that? They are sentient beings. They can communicate with the companions, and that is because the deities or the gods or the elders, depending on who you ask in Tergaenae, they made it possible to protect several groups, to protect the dragons as well. And that is how the companions came to be. And there is a special ceremony and a special ritual that takes place before a dragon companion becomes a true dragon companion. And being a companion means that you can communicate with the dragon in a way that the commoners simply can't. I mean, the commoners will hear growling or whatever, while the dragon companions will hear the actual voice of the dragon and the actual text they say, instead of what may sound like growling to the commoners. So that is how my dragons work. And I know that my moderator has dragons in her story as well, and she does it in a completely different way again. So that is what I love about fantasy. You can have so many interpretations of certain things, of how dragons work, of how any species work, and that's what I love about fantasy. And you can create such wonderful worlds. I mean, yeah, you have to make sure there are rules, and in your story, if the rules are broken, that it is somehow logical or in a way possible that some rule is broken. But having a fantasy story, having a fantasy world, makes it it gives you so much more possibilities, I think. I mean, in Tergaenae, I have lots of different creatures, but not only that, I have lots of different, biologically different races of peoples. For example, I have a race which is inspired by meerkats, simply because I like meerkats. Those are such fun creatures in the real world, so I just had to have them in Tergaenae. But there are also frogs who can frogs or toads and frogs and toads who can ride rocks, for example. Those are certain birds, and they help with mapping Tergaenae and all kinds of things in Tergaenae. I mean, it's not simply the land that they map. Lands can change in Tergaenae. But they also map political things and all kinds of other things, um, so that uh, there are correct maps. But imagine that is done by a species that is inspired by frogs and toads. So yeah, Tergaenae is has quite a lot of different fantasy species, and that is what I love about fantasy. You can basically do whatever you want. So speaking about doing whatever we want, um, shall we start a writing session of 25 minutes? It's Let's see where our characters take us and how the story progresses, and if we can find out more, teaching your case about the murderer, and in my case, I need to see where Nejat will find all those flutter nymphs and the small folk and how they are doing. Are they, I don't know, wounded and such? They do expect the flutter nymphs and those few small folk to be wounded, so I'll have to see how that goes. Um, for anyone watching, let us know in the chat how you are doing and what you are struggling with. If you have any world building questions or story questions, story development questions, or character development questions, just ask them in chat, and I'll try to answer them as best as possible. And if not, I will get back to it in the comments later on, once I have once I have a decent answer. So yeah, do join, and let's start another writing session. I see that I forgot to activate my timer. It's handy to have that with me. So we have a timer of 25 minutes, and you will hear a sound once that timer is done. I wish you all good luck with writing, and I hope that the words may flow easily and that your characters will show their intentions today. Happy writing! that is the sign of the end of our first writing sprint. How did you guys do? I managed to write 684 words in this session, which means I made my session target of 500 words, and I am very happy with it. The fight that I was writing about or telling about is not, well, shall I say, it wasn't easy to write. Writing fighting scenes is not my forte. Tish, you got 497 done. Excellent. You added it to your earlier account. Yeah, that's the best way to do it. My total is right now 2,534 words, so I'm happy with that. That's one step closer again to the 5K of today's daily word count goal. And at least I am now with the story in a situation where we get to rescue the flutter nymphs and possibly some small folk. The man is now the man that was fighting Nejat is now tied up. I'll see from there. How did it go for your character? How did Bay do? And did she find anything new or interesting or surprising? In my case, the wolf man shapeshifter, whatever, I haven't discovered that fully yet. Decided to have a go at the man as well, but he was stopped by Nejat, and Nejat decided that both the wolf and the flutter nymph that he helped should get a chance to punish the guy, but well, his teammates and Parabatai Ruar came in to say, okay, we really need to go because that magical device is really, really bad and shields won't hold it for very long. So we really need to get back home. So yeah, we'll see about that. And I am glad to say that the High Council of Tergaenae did give me permission to tell you guys this. So it seems that they don't mind me telling you guys about punishing these people, apparently. So that's hopeful for the future. I know the High Council has been a bit, shall we say, cautious about me sharing information with all of you, and of course about who my contacts are in the world of Tergaenae. They shared, or rather not they, but one of the people who approached me shared a map, which turned out to be a really bad map. So the High Council wasn't happy with that, and they put a lid on the map makers and did not allow them anymore to give me information. But they stated that they would give the information themselves, so that's going to be interesting, because after all, the map makers make all the maps that the High Council members use. So essentially, still the map makers will make the map for me. So we'll see about that. That's something for the future. So what we are going to do, what I am hoping to see in the next part, is that I will find. My apologies. That I will find the flutter nymph family or the clan, because I think if the amount is correct, the amount of flutter nymphs that this one flutter nymph told about, then this is not a family anymore. This is a clan of families, because this one flutter nymph talked about 100 or 150 members, that's a bit much for one family. I mean, yeah, of course they get more than one kids per season. I think they get about 5 or 6. I'm not sure exactly, but 150. That's I think it's safe to say that that is a clan and not a small family anymore. Tisha say, wow, that's a lot. Yeah, exactly. Well, you have to know the flutter nymphs are tiny creatures. They fit into the palm of your hand. So they are not big and they do not take a lot of space where they live. They live in the trees in small nests that are often as small as a cup or maybe a little bit bigger, with a mushroom on top of it as a roof. They build their nests against the trunk of trees. Uh, so they are really tiny. I mean, they can fit in the palm of your hand. So when you see the flutter nymphs, if you are lucky enough to see the flutter nymphs, they don't seem to be a huge group, or at least that is what I expect. The question, of course, now is, will we see all those flutter nymphs? Because this one flutter nymph decided to show herself to Nejat and his teammate because she needed help. But the flutter nymphs normally aren't seen. You will know that there's been a flutter nymph because of the magical residue that is in the air where they have flown. And the magical residue will also evaporate really fast. So the chance that you will see the magical residue is already low, and the chance that you will actually see the flutter nymph, I mean, that's really, really low. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that family or that clan. I have no idea yet what it will look like, but seeing the fact that these outsiders do not shy away from torturing people and torturing creatures, or at least that is the information I got. It's the big question how in what state we will find the flutter nymphs. Did you find it you say it sounds so intriguing? Well, thank you. I hope it is. The flutter nymph is, for your background information, it is a tiny creature inspired by sea angels, which are actually plankton. I think about 5 centimeters or something. So those are not really tall. And these flutter nymphs are not tall either. They are small. But instead of living in the sea, they are aerial creatures. So that's going to be quite interesting. And it is they have features of different kinds of earth creatures. They have a long tail with a pad. I don't know exactly how it is called, but the pad like gibbons have, that they use to hang on to branches, and they have appendages or whatever you want to call them. You might want to call them arms, but they're not really. I mean, they don't have. It's more muscles than bones in it, and they are usually hidden inside the wings. So and that is from again other creatures. They do have the base form of a sea angel, but other things are quite different. So it's going to be fun to see how people find it. It's also something I am designing at the moment. I am really terrible at 2D drawing. So I'm not going to show you a sketch of that, because no, that's that's way too terrible. But I hope to be able to show you guys a 3D model of the flutter nymph, of what it will look like. And I have several versions. I have the youngsters and the babies and the adults, of course. And depending on the age, they look different. And the flutter nymphs are a very social species, so they live together. Ooh, pardon me. They live together in a group, in a family, and you often find that the flutter nymphs, children, will stay with the parents and help the parents take care of the new children. And yes, some children will move away and will make a family with others, and will move there, while others will find partners and stay with their own family. So the flutter nymphs are really family creatures, and this is also why this one particular flutter nymph wanted to seek the help of Nejat, because it is her family that is in danger. And seeing the fact that she is really, really furious towards that one man makes me think that the family members might be wounded, at least, might have been in terrible danger, might have been threatened, might have been tortured, because these outsiders are, from all that I have heard, these outsiders are really bad. I mean, it's not just a counterfeit issue that they became known for, or rather, they didn't become known for it. The counterfeit issue is what got Nejat to this small village and the ancient forest. And those are things that are not always easy to find out exactly who is responsible, who made the coins, etc., etc. And in this case, there is magic involved, there is ancient magic involved, there is corrupted ancient magic involved. So it's quite complicated, and to see such a flutter nymph family being involved in a way is in a way also heartbreaking, I think. I'll have to see about that. So how did your character fare? How is Bay doing in those 500 words that you've written? I mean, I'm talking a lot about my story, but I'd love to hear about Bay and her father. And for those who are joining us and watching, please share in the chats what you're working on, what you're writing about, and if you have any questions about character development, or struggles you have, or hurdles you have to take, world building issues, please share them, and we'll try to help you as best as we can. It's always fun to do that. It's always fun to hear from other authors and to hear what they are working on. And remember, you're not an aspiring author. You are an author if you write. Aspiring authors are authors who talk about writing but do not write. Authors are people who write. So if you join NaNoWriMo, you are an author. You're just not. You may not be a published author yet, if that is your dream, but you are an author. So when I talk about authors, I talk about everybody who writes. That is my sense on that. So, like I said, I love to hear from other authors how how your work is going, and how what struggles you see, but also what milestones you reach. Tish, you love the definition of an author. Thank you, thank you. It's yeah. I think that aspiring author, nah, that doesn't work for me. And Tish, you are just writing out of order new side characters. It's just a rough draft. You're going to have to take a break. Wishing you so much productive writing. I enjoyed. Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I wish you a lot of fun with your writing, with your side characters and all your other characters. Uh, I really loved it that you joined, and I hope to see you again in the future. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. My next live stream will be next Friday, Friday in a week, again at the same time, 3 p.m. Amsterdam time. And I will put a link in the description and possibly my channel about section for the time conversion. Oh, that's great. Thank you. Thank you that you will be definitely back and you subscribe. Thank you for your subscription. I love it. I love it. I will see you. I wish you a wonderful day and a wonderful weekend. And I will see you next Friday. And for the others who joined and who are watching right now and who are writing with us along, I hope everything is going all right with your writing. A tissue to enjoy. Thank you very much. So far, Nejat and Nazia's story is going well, especially seeing the fact that I haven't written any outline for this background story because I found out when I was working on a new outline for my main novel, for the first novel. I had to rework a lot of things because of new discoveries I made in the last year and a half, since I wrote the book, the first book. I discovered Nejat's and Naja's presence, shall we say, and I found that I needed information and I needed to know particular pieces of information about their relationship, because Naja and Nejat in the beginning of book 1 already have an established relationship in one way or another. I can't divulge into that yet. That is something you will have to read about later on. But they have an established relationship, and there are specific things that were important for them, and specific things I needed to know, and I didn't know them. And that is when I decided to write the background story of their relationship and what happened and how they met and how their relationship started to grow. But I hadn't made a background story. I hadn't made a storyline for that because it was at first a simple idea of, okay, I need some background information, so I'll just write a short story about it. And at the moment, I think I'm at 15,000 words or something, and yeah, Nejat and Nasha haven't met yet. So this is it's not only a background story of their relationship, but it is also a background story of the characters themselves. We get to know more about Nejat. We get to know more about Ruar, who is one of the main characters in the main novel, and Nejat and Naja also are important characters in the main novel series. At first, I thought they were just, well, not side characters, but they wouldn't play an important role yet in book 1. It would be more in the second half of book 2, or maybe the beginning of book 3, that they would emerge far more. And at the moment, I don't know yet, but how we will find them at the start of book one. But I do know that I have promoted them in a way to be main characters as well. In a way, um, I can't divulge into what I mean with that for the main story, because that would spoil everything about the background story and about how they start out in the main story. So I cannot tell anything about that at the moment. Maybe later on, but not now. Um, but yeah, I have promoted them to main characters as well. Does that mean that in the main novel they will have their own chapters? I don't know yet. It might come in later in later novels. Um, I will have to find it out. Um, a little bit about my writing progress, and or not so much writing progress, but the way I write my books. I decided to do things differently after I wrote the first draft, the very first draft, because in the very first draft I literally wrote myself into a corner and I had no way out anymore, because I had used so many point of views in the text without proper focus, that I simply didn't know anymore who was doing what, where, when, with whom, and why, and how, and how they were doing, and if they even could be there in that place, and if they even could have that information. And I just simply didn't know anymore. And it is bad when you, as an author, don't know it anymore. So I decided to take a step back and develop my story in a different way. I had read Game of Thrones, and I had read God, not A Court of Thorn and Roses, but Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas, and I really liked the way that they have a point of view chapter approach. In a way, you see the chapter from the point of view of that one character, and then at some point I realized that that is something I have to do in my own story as well. So that meant a complete rewrite of my first draft, and it also means that I do not know yet if Nejat and Nejat in the first book will have their own chapter. That is what I meant with that. Will I write a full chapter from one of their point of views? I don't know yet, because there is also a lot of information that at the moment I didn't want to be live in a way in the book. Instead, you will see it through flashbacks or through other techniques that I use in the book, magical techniques. It is the magic of the world of Tergaenae, and the magic in the world of Tergaenae has a variety of ways to show information, to show experiences, and at the moment that is what I have written in the main novel, and what I had planned for Nejat and Nejat. So I'm not sure about that yet. In later books, they might have their own chapters, especially in the last book, because in the last book everything comes together, and there will be huge wars. And Nejat and Nejat will have a very important role in that, and thus also get their own chapter. What I might do is that I have in a chapter scenes that are a point of view scene, so to speak. So I might go to a different point of view in a chapter, switch to another point of view if that is necessary for the story. Because I think it is very important that that is something to keep in mind. It's all nice to show a dozen or more point of views, but do those point of views actually benefit the story? Do they contribute to the story? So that is what I keep in mind, and that is what is important to me, and that is what will always be the main question for me to answer when I decide, if and when I decide to change a point of view in a chapter, and to see if that new point of view contributes to the story. So I'll have to see. It might be good to have certain scenes from, for example, Nejat's point of view. In the first book, we probably, I don't know. I expect that in the first book we will not see Nejat. But that is, at this moment, that is my expectation. So it wouldn't be logical to have a point of view chapter or scene, or let alone chapter, from Nejat if for the rest we don't see her. So yeah, those are things I struggle with at the moment. But those are also good things. But it is important. It is important to keep in mind that a point of view, whether it is a scene or a full chapter or a paragraph, I do not suggest to change point of views with paragraphs, because that would be too complicated. But with scene or chapters, keep in mind that the question if that new point of view contributes to the story. I mean, it's fun. It might be fun to see, for example, the point of view of spectators of some incident, but if that new point of view doesn't give you and doesn't give the reader any new information about that incident, then why include it? So yeah, those are things to keep in mind, and those are also things that I struggle with, and things I'll have to figure out as I go. I have made an outline, and the outline of the entire series is something I'm still working on. It is not complete yet, and in my outline, I'm not completely detailed, but I have changed my outlines to point of view chapters, so to speak. So in my outline, I really focus on whose point of view the chapter is. So what can they know and what can't they know? What information can they get? I mean, if I am here in the Netherlands, I don't know, just go with the flow. If I'm here in the Netherlands, it's impossible for me to know how someone feels on the other side of the earth, because I'm not there. I'm not. I can't see that person unless it's via Skype or a live stream or Zoom or whatever means that that you can see other people with video calls, etc., etc. So that is, if you do not have those means, it is impossible to know how that other person is feeling, how that other person is doing. I mean, if I can't call that other person, I don't know how that person is doing. If we look back at, I don't know, let's say, well, not 50 years. Well, yeah, 50 years, yeah, 50 years, 100 years. Phones weren't that common 100 years ago. 50 years, yeah, normal landlines were common. Mobile phones, however, I mean, I've seen them being introduced. So they were not common at all. I remember I was a teenager, and then we got cell phones, and it was handy to be able to call my parents when my bike broke down on way to school. But it was, I mean, we could call, and we could we could send messages, text messages, and I think we had a few games. I think a Tetris-like game and Snake, and I think that was it. And compared to the smartphones we all have now, that is a huge difference. Um, and we didn't have social media. Internet was still in its infancy. We've seen that introduced as well. We've seen computers introduced in households. I mean, right now, if you look in a house, there are multiple computers, multiple tablets, or whatever, and smartphones and things like that. So keeping in touch with someone and actually seeing someone is way easier nowadays than it was, let's say, 30 years ago, or 50 years ago, or 100 years ago. Um, Before the 1900s, there were the telegrams, and um, people made use of letters. I mean, just written letters, you know. I mean, that's hardly done anymore. Handwritten letters. I remember I exchanged letters with pen pals of mine, and we saved the stamps, and we had ways to reuse stamps. um, so yeah, that was fun. But we wrote letters, and if and when we would call, it would be it would be a call of an hour or two or three, and our parents wouldn't be happy with it because we were hogging the landlines. And I remember when we got internet at home, we had those ADSL cables, and you had that certain sound, the bleeping. Those who remember it will know what I mean. There's a certain sound, and the moment you hear that sound, you know, yeah, that was the internet decades ago. But those were the ways that we could keep in touch. I mean, we had news groups and fora, and websites were in their infancies. I mean, they were walls of text. We didn't do live streaming back then because it wasn't facilitated yet. So keeping track of people and keeping in touch with people was through email, through the news groups, through forums. Um, so again, that is something you have to keep in mind, and when you think about how people can get information, and how people can get information about other people, and about how other people feel, and how they are health wise, um, Those are all things to keep in mind. In a medieval world, uh, if people have moved to another city, to the other side of the country, it might take weeks, if not months, for them to find out that a family member had died. Um, and if you are writing a fantasy story, that is something to keep in mind as well. How do people connect in your fantasy story? How do they keep in touch? How do they get information from their family members? In my case, for example, in Tergaenae, in the main story, I have one character who hasn't been in touch with her siblings for years, um, and it was not by her choice, and neither by the choice of her siblings. And I was wondering, how is that possible? How is it possible that they haven't seen each other because they lived in the same city? So how is it possible that they haven't seen each other, haven't heard from each other, etc., etc.? And then I thought, okay, the city is big. How big is the city? Well, I looked at my old hometown. It's a big city. It's a very big city. And then I thought, okay, well that explains, if it's such a big city, that that does indeed explain why she wouldn't have met her siblings anymore, especially in a fantasy world where you do not have phones, where uh, means of communication are completely different. So those are all things to keep in mind when you are writing a point of view chapter or a point of view scene. Um, it is important to know what that person can know and what that person can't know. And things to be careful with is that you don't do an info dump in that chapter, that you don't have a character that barges in and just blurbs out every information that he or she has for that one character, and that one character is just like, oh, okay, can you repeat it and maybe make a bullet point list because this was too much? Do it in small chunks. That's also easier for the reader. So those are all things to keep in mind when you are writing point of view chapters and scenes. Some things are simply impossible to know, so do not let your character know. That is okay, and that is normal, and that makes your world feel more immersive because you acknowledge the fact that there is a limit to what your characters can know and to what your characters can get of information. It is normal to have such a limit. So to have that actually also in your point of view chapter and in your point of view scene actually makes your world more immersive. So keep that in mind. I see that it is already 4:30. I'd like to do 2 more sprints and see where they can take me. So let's start another sprint of 25 minutes. Let me get something to drink first. Okay, because I want to know how it is with those flutter nymphs, how they are doing, and the only way that I can know is to let Nejat to let Nejat do his thing, and to see if he can find the flutter nymphs and possibly also the small folk, the few people of the small folk who are there, or better, who are supposed to be there. That is the expectation. So let's get to it, and then I will see where this is going to take me. I wish you all happy writing for the next 25 minutes, and may your characters show their intentions and may your words flow. Have fun! And that's the end of our sprint. It seems I pressed the wrong button with the timer. Um, yes, how did the sprint go for you all? I managed to write 623 words, give or take a few, because I did something wrong with copy and pasting, uh, or rather, pulling something out and pasting it back in. But at least I made my total amount at 3,157 words, so that's good progress. Not much interesting has happened so far, since all the outsiders were rounded up. It's just a filler scene that I wrote that, well, makes a bridge to them going to the into the ancient forest, deeper into the ancient forest, to find the flutter nymphs and possibly also the small folk. It's filler scenes need to be there. It's you can use them to make bridges, like I can do in this case. You can use them to convey information, but you can also use them to give your characters a breathing and a time to just come to relax, because you cannot keep your characters at their toes constantly. They need some time to take a breath, and to relax for a moment. I mean, in this case, in my case, the characters have had a fierce fight. Well, I'm not good at writing fighting scenes, so it's not really a fierce fight at the moment. But I hope to write it better in the future. At least it's supposed to be a fierce fight. So they need a little breather. They need a little time to regroup and to check for injuries and things like that, before they move deeper into the ancient forest and check on the flutter nymphs and the small folk. Those are important things to do. And of course, it's fun to write the events and all the action, but you cannot write only action. It's not real. It doesn't. How shall I say this? If your characters do not get a breather and do not get to sit down, for example, to eat something, or to just take stock of inventory, to see if anybody is hurt, in this case, in my case, for example, I mean, they've been in a fight, and it wouldn't be logical if none of them had been hurt. I mean, they are dragon companions, so they are used to fighting, and they are trained to avoid the worst of the worst. But it doesn't mean that they will not get wounds. So they will have to take stock of that, and they will have to see if the wounds have to be treated right now or at a later time. Those are all things that you can do in those filler scenes. Those filler scenes are really ideal for that. You don't have to make them a chapter long, but just a few paragraphs, or depending on the action that you came from. In this case, I have to check. Rather, Nejat needs to check with the companions if there are companions who are wounded, who are so wounded that they cannot venture into deeper into the ancient forest. Nejat needs to know if any of the companions simply doesn't want to venture into the ancient forest. He also has to know if the villages who tagged along do not want to go on anymore. And that is where this filler scene, these paragraphs come in. that those things will come out in such in such a part, um, and they can just sit down for a moment. They can check each other for wounds. They can check the surroundings and see how things are going, and then move on again and continue to the rescue. Um, because they that way they have a little time to do that, and that is a way for your readers to connect with the characters, to see that they are not all invincible, that they do have flaws, that they do have vulnerabilities, um, and that they also do normal things like eating or drinking something or taking care of someone, or being taken care of for whatever reason, or maybe just read a book. Well, not in this case, but you know what I mean. Just read a book or read whatever. Um, that is a way for your readers to connect with your characters, not only through all the action, but essentially those filler scenes are also the moments where the other sides of your characters are shown, and those are the moments where your readers might even connect more and better with your characters than during all the action scenes, because the action scenes are things we see, for example, in the movies, let's say the Avengers or anything else. We see that in the action movies, but when do we connect to the characters? When do we connect to Captain America? When do we connect to God? What is his name? I don't know anymore. It's those moments that they can sit down and talk a bit with the other characters and see how the world is doing and see how their, I don't know, their parents are doing, or other family or friends. Um, those are the moments that the other sides of the character come out, and those are the sides that your readers can connect to, because the action is all fun. It's great to see and great to read, awesome to read. But many of your readers do not have that kind of action in their own lives. They might wish for it. They might have those moments where you think, oh, if I can do that, or if I was able to, I don't know, do martial arts, or do sword fighting, or whatever, those kind of actions. Sure, we all dream of that once, but that is not what we connect to. What we connect to are the emotions, and are the things that we can relate to, and the things that we can relate to are, like I said, the emotions, but also the things that that your characters do outside of all those action things. The quiet moments where they write a letter or read a book or simply make dinner. I mean, we all have to make dinner at some point. So what do they do? Is your character someone who usually goes for takeouts, or is your character someone who will cook elaborate meals when they have the time, when they have a full day to be in the kitchen and to cook a grand meal? Those are all things your characters, your readers might relate to, and those are the things that make the characters real for them. So that those are things that can happen in your filler characters, my apologies, in your filler scenes and in your filler chapters is what I meant to say. So be sure to use those filler chapters and filler scenes. At the same time, make sure that those scenes and those chapters do have a function in your story. I mean, don't write 50 scenes of your character cooking one meal after another. I mean, if they have cooked an elaborate grand meal for the family for some kind of holiday, that's great, but they don't do that every day. They don't do that every week. So keep that in mind. It is, how shall I say that? That is the way to keep your readers connected to your story and connected to your world. It is that displays the immersiveness of your world, and that is what is important. And your world can be a fully high fantasy world like mine is, like Tergaenae is, but it can also be present day Earth. And I mean, in present day Earth, you can write about, I don't know. For example, I've been to LA a couple of years ago, several years ago for a holiday. Um, I just was there for a couple of days. We traveled around a few states. And we had a grand time. But I mean, please do not ask me where the streets are, etc., and which building is where, because I have no idea. Your readers won't have any idea either, if they don't live in LA. So if you have a story that plays in LA, um, you can and you come from LA yourself, for example, you can have a full idea of what LA looks like, where the suburbs are, where the cinemas are, where the Walk of Fame is. I mean, everything. But it doesn't mean that your readers know that. It doesn't mean that your characters know that. I mean, do your characters all live in LA? Or do they come from outside and do they get to know LA? In that case, or rather for that reason, a, a piece of world building is handy to do. Just to have, for example, a simple thing like just a map, buy a tourist map, and you have all the streets and the important buildings, etc. Also, even though you live in the city yourself, for example, you live in the city yourself, it doesn't mean that you can know everything of that city. So if you have a map of the city, a current map, then you can refer to that for yourself and write about specific things that are particular to your story. That is just a small piece of world building that you do, but it does help, and it makes your worlds more immersive, even though it is a present day world, and even though it is a known world, or rather many people, a lot of people know Los Angeles exists. But how many people of the 7 billion trillion? I don't know how many people. We have a lot of people on the earth. How many people have actually been in LA? I mean, I've been there once for a few days in my life. I've been to, I think we went to Walk of Fame, I think. We've been close to the Hollywood sign. We didn't manage to get up there, because that I remember all the roads there were closed, and we couldn't find any way to get there like you see in the movies where they climb over fences and such, and we couldn't find an option to go there, so we didn't manage to do that. But those are the things, the little things you see in the movies or in a book, that make it immersive. So those are things that you can also incorporate in your filler scenes, in your filler chapters, um, to drag your reader further into your world and further into your story, and to make them connect even more to your world, to your story, and to your characters. So that once they have finished reading your story, they will want to read it again to find, to discover new details that you've written in the story. Not that you added details, but you know what I mean. Um, so yeah, use your filler scenes and filler stories. Use them to benefit your story, um, and your readers, because that is the most important thing. Okay, I want to do one more writing sprint, um, and then I'm going to call it a day because I'm slowly starting to get hungry. Um, so it is time to start dinner. Um, so I'm gonna close this off with one more writing session of 25 minutes again. Um, I have no idea where I will end it. Of course, earlier I expected to end it with the rescue of the flutter nymphs. Well, no, they still have to get to the flutter nymphs. I forgot about that little piece of filler theme that does come in handy in this case, because there will be some companions that are wounded, who are wounded. Um, so yeah, I guess I will continue with the Philistine for now, because I have to find out. Nejat needs to find out who is actually coming with him to the ancient, deeper into the ancient forest, who is wounded and needs treatment, etc., etc. So yeah, that is what I'm going to write now. And after that, I'll do a short recap, and then the live stream will end. So it's another, let's say, 30 minutes, 25-minute writing session. I wish you all good luck, have fun, and happy writing. And that is the signal of the end of our last sprint. Well, like I said, this was not going to reveal anything about the Flutter-Nymphs family. I still had to deal with the continuation of the filler scene. As it turns out, Nejat got hurt in his fight with that leader of the outsiders, and it turns out that the leader used poisoned weapons. For the life of me, I can't remember what kind of weapon he used. I don't remember what he took, but it doesn't matter. I will find that out later. Anyways, he used poisoned weapons, and he threatened to throw the weapon, or rather, he threw the weapon in the direction of the wolf, but he didn't throw well. And instead of hitting the wolf, luckily, he hit Nejat, which wasn't lucky, a lucky thing. And the weapon cut cleanly through Nejat's leather jacket, the sleeve of Nejat's leather jacket, and it made a wound on his arm, and the poison is now spreading through the lower arm. So yeah, things need to be treated, but they still have this Flutter-Nymph family, clan, whatever to save. So Nejat isn't really willing to wait for that, especially since the wound doesn't hurt more than other similar normal knife wounds of that size and type. So yeah, it will be interesting to see how this progresses, but that is something for another time. That will be probably some writing sessions during this weekend. For myself, I might do surprise live writing streams, live writing sessions this weekend, but those will be, like I say, surprise sessions. So you might get a notification if you hit the like and subscribe button. So you might get a notification that I am alive at a certain moment. Otherwise, and during the weekend and during the week that follows the weekend. Otherwise, I will just have the live writing session stream next Friday, same time, 3 p.m. Amsterdam time. So yeah, for me it seems to be a better time than 7 p.m. better time than in the evening, especially seeing the fact that I am now almost an hour over the planned time. So yeah, I think I will continue that at least for the whole month of November, every Friday, and after that I will see. I will do a closing session on November 30th. That's on a Thursday, I see. So I don't know if I will do another session on December the 1st, but I will just look at it when we get there. It will be fun to check in with things. Anyways, I am very happy with the result of today. I managed to write 602 words in this last session, which gives me a total of 3,759 words. So yeah, it's a good progress. I'm happy with the result. And especially because even though these last parts were more filler parts, they did give extra information. As I had this scene in my head that came up, today, where Nejat and Nejat meet in Dragon City, just after the Dragon Companions have delivered all the platinums. That is why I expect that they will rescue all those platinums in the coming scenes. And I found that in that later scene, in that later moment, which I still have to write, but things came up, ideas came up. I found that Nejat was injured, and that he was badly injured. So yeah, that's something that that I didn't know yet, why and how better, not so much why as more the how he was injured and what kind of injury he had. I mean, he barged into the room where the healers were. So it's not that he can't walk anymore. So I didn't know the type of injury and what the consequences were. So now I know what the wound is. And I'll have to see how he can heal from that. Some ideas popped up. It might have to do with the wolf shape shifter, whatever, and the flutter nymph magic. I'm not quite sure about that yet, but a few things popped up that I discovered that might help in the treatment of Nejat's wound. The other, my apologies. The other dragon companions so far don't have that many wounds. There are a few who are wounded in a way that they do need treatment, and the others just have scratches and things like that, and maybe some bruises. But they are not heavily wounded, and those who need treatment are lucky enough not to have been poisoned. So the question now, of course, is what exactly the poison is. And Michael, who is one of Seamus's team members, Seamus is Nejat's brother. Michael has a mother who is a healer, and so Michael is going to take the weapon. I think it's a knife, but I'm not quite sure anymore. Anyways, the weapon, the poisoned weapon, he is wrapping it up in special things to make sure that the poison, it can't get to anyone, but still can be shown to his mother, who might have a solution for this poisoning. That is all something we all have to see later on. I have to find out later on. So that is in the planning for the coming days, the coming week. I guess tomorrow I will write about the rescue of the flutter nymphs, and hopefully I will find out what is going on with the small folk and how many small folk are actually there, and if they are wounded or hurt or wounded or threatened, I mean, and what's going on? Why are they there? And what is their role in this whole? So yeah, that will be interesting to see. So all in all, I'm happy with today's result, and I'm looking forward to 2 more writing sessions during the week. I might join live streams from other authors here on YouTube, and I might do surprise live streams. So if you want to participate in more live writing sessions, hit the like and subscribe button below, and so that you will, and the bell notification, so that you will be notified of new live streams, especially the live streams, the surprise live streams, so that you can participate in those live writing sessions, and ask your questions if you have any, um, and tell us about your project you were working on. If you have questions about story development or character development, or perhaps world building, it's all very welcome here. So yeah, I'm happy with the result. I hope that you guys have managed to write a very decent amount of words, and that you are happy with the result as well, and that your story has progressed in the way that you like it. Um, I won't say the way that you planned it. I mean, in my case, this background story isn't planned at all, uh, but for my main novel, I do have an outline for the series, uh, but I give myself the freedom to deviate from the outline. As long as I am happy with the results, I don't care if I stick to the outline or not. If the change makes the story better, I'm going full on with the change. So in this case, I'm just keep on writing, because I have no outline. So I'll just see what I discover about this relationship and about these characters. It's a fun journey anyway. So I will see you definitely next Friday, and maybe in a surprise live stream, live writing sessions during the week. I wish you all a happy